Hey there, I'm Tyler Grant. Very excited to start this 10-week live series with you on Bluegrass Kickoffs. Now, let's talk a little bit about what that means. You might have heard this term thrown around kind of loosely in country music and bluegrass music circles. You might have heard someone say it on TV, like the Darlin family on the Andy Griffith Show, or Beverly Hillbillies, or someone like that. Kick it off. Well, that means you're starting the song. You're introducing the song, you're setting it up with an instrumental introduction. And in bluegrass music, we call that a kickoff. So a kickoff is a particular form of arrangement, and there really are no rules here. The kickoffs in bluegrass style are generally and traditionally played by the fiddle or the banjo or the mandolin. You don't often hear kickoffs on guitar, unless you're listening to the Stanley Brothers or Reno and Smiley, and their recordings mostly in the 1950s. Reno and Smiley had Don Reno, who was also the banjo player, and he kicked off some songs on guitar. Stanley Brothers had the great George Shuffler, who laid down the law on cross-picking style in the Clinch Mountain sound of the Stanley Brothers, and he did a lot of guitar kickoffs for that group. Otherwise, your traditional bands like Bill Monroe and the Bluegrass Boys, rarely do you ever hear a guitar kickoff. However, this music has evolved through the years, and some great players who came along in the 60s and 70s after those couple acts I told you about before. Doc Watson, namely, Clarence White, and then Tony Rice. These players, and Dan Crary. These players sort of led the way, with lead guitar being a more significant role in the bluegrass sound, where previously the guitar was mainly a rhythm instrument. Now, that's not to say there aren't a lot of lead figures in bluegrass rhythm guitar, right? We've always got these. Bass runs, G runs, things like that. Those have always been part of the responsibility of that rhythm guitarist. So you could argue that bluegrass guitar has always had a lead element to it. However, the guitar being off on its own, kicking off a song, that's something that we're exploring as something that evolved in this sound over time. And these days, it's pretty common. If you listen to any of my albums, you're going to hear a lot of guitar kickoffs, right? So we're getting into a song today called Worried Man Blues. This is a standard, ultra standard. Just knowing this song, you're going to get a lot of mileage at jams, and you could go anywhere in the world and play this song with other bluegrass musicians, and they're going to be very familiar with it. So let's do kind of a quick review of the song. We're in the key of G. And let's go ahead and pull up the lead sheet. You're going to see the lead sheet on your screen here. And we're just going to kind of play through the chords first, and I'll sing the song for you. So we got a G chord, and we got a C chord. And guess what the third one is? D chord, or a D7. So these chords in bluegrass terms, or in general music theory terms, are called the 1, the 4, and the 5 in the key of G. So oftentimes in bluegrass settings at bluegrass jams, you're going to hear people shout, hey, this is 1, 4, 5, or 1, 4, 1, 5. They'll shout the numbers of the chords as opposed to the actual names of the chords. Why is that? Well, because in bluegrass music, we're used to changing keys with respect to the singer, where the singer's voice is. Like, I sing the song in G. Ralph Stanley or Carter Stanley would sing it up in B, right? So the capo up and change the key. And other instruments don't use capos. Some other instruments do, but not all of them. The mandolin doesn't use a capo, the fiddle doesn't use a capo, the bass doesn't use a capo. Guitars and banjos might be capoed at different places. Other guitars in the jam might be capoed at different places. So that's why we use the numbers to avoid any confusion as to what chord position some of the instruments are playing. So we're going to start on the 1 chord G. And we're going to do a regular old boom strum, boom, strum, boom. Now, if you need to know more about the boom strum, check out some of the other resources here that I've put down on JamPlay. I've got lots of rhythm guitar resources for you in bluegrass. But it's an alternating bass rhythm, the root and the fifth. And that's the main kind of rhythm riff that we do in this style. Okay, so looking at the lead sheet, here we go. Strumming through the changes. A 1, a 2, a 3, 4, G. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Here's the C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 more beats, and then back to G. Chord D, back to the 1. Now I'll sing the song and we'll take it from the top. It takes a worried man to sing a worried song. Takes a worried man to sing a worried song. It takes a worried man to sing a worried song. I'm a worried now, but I won't be worried long. Okay, so there's the basic rhythm. And like I said, I've got a Bluegrass Rhythm Survival Guide on JamPlay that you can check out to get more of this kind of stuff. Most of my bluegrass courses on JamPlay, all of them pretty much have a rhythm element to it because it's such an important part of this style. But let's go ahead and move on to the melody. So we're still looking at the lead sheet, and you should be able to read this in real time on the notation or the tablature there. And I'm going to go ahead and put on the rhythm track at the slowest tempo. I got 3 rhythm tracks for you: slow, medium, and performance tempo. The performance tempo is still on the slower side, okay? Because I know this style can be a little bit, it takes a little bit of time to grab it physically, right? Because bluegrass style tends to go by pretty fast. It's pretty simple music, and this is a very simple song, very simple melody. But when you play it at actual tempo, like you're playing along with the Stanley Brothers recording, it's going by pretty quick. So that's something you'll gain in time as a player. This live series, the whole thing is set up to have something accessible for all levels. Once we get to the actual arrangement of the kickoff, there's some upper, intermediate kind of stuff in there. So I don't expect all players to be able to grab everything they can out of this lesson all the way through. But this stuff I expect you to get. And it might take a little bit of focus, or maybe coming back and trying it again if you don't pick it up in real time as this lesson is airing. But remember, if you're a JamPlay member, you can go back and check this out again on the archive. It's a good idea to have a pen next to you and a pad where you can take notes of timing on the video. Like, okay, we're going to play the lead sheet at wherever we are now, 11 minutes in, you know what I mean? And then you can always come back and check out those parts again that you need to practice. So here we go. I'm going to put on the track at the slowest tempo, which is 50 beats per minute. And let's go ahead and play through this melody just to familiarize ourselves that much more with the song. Here we go. A 1, 2, 3, and a 4, and... Okay, so that is a simple version of the melody. Now, I arranged it as such where it's kind of squared off. The phrasing of any singer singing this is going to be a little bit different, and the phrasing of how you play it might be a little different. But when I'm making a lead sheet, that's just the chord changes in the melody. I'd like to do a very simple, very squared off version of the melody. So that's what we're playing here. Now that, which we just played, and you heard the rhythm guitar happening along with that basic melody, that's a fine kickoff for the song. If you're going to get together with a friend and play this song, one of you could play rhythm and the other one can play this basic melody, and you're kicking off the song. There it is. Beautiful. And you can make it very musical, toneful, in good timing. And you hear a lot of bluegrass, folk, old-time music that has this kind of approach that's very, very simple. We're going to extend this and kind of keep moving with it and add a lot of things to it. But just so you know, the basic melody is where it all begins. So start with that. So while we're here, let's go ahead and try that one more time, and let's try this at the mid-tempo now, medium tempo, 70 beats per minute, just the basic melody on the lead sheet. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. Great. So you could take that and just kind of riff on just the basic notes of the melody. Let me try to demonstrate this. So without changing the notes at all, maybe I could try some different rhythms with the picking hand that would spice up this very simple version of the melody. So let me try that at the same tempo and just listen and kind of notice what I'm doing. Threw in a little lick at the end, but it's the same notes you just played. You get the picture. I'm just kind of giving it a little bit of a rhythmic variation, exact same notes for the most part. So now I want to touch on an approach to kicking songs off that's very specific, called a melody strum. Now this is something, again, that I cover in great detail on all of my bluegrass courses here on JamPlay. So we're not going to spend much time here. I want to keep moving, but let me just sort of show you this melody strum arrangement. This is something that we covered before. I don't remember exactly where, but we've been through this. So again, I'm not going to spend much time on it, but let's go ahead and pull up the melody strum arrangement, and you'll see that this is an arrangement that just uses the same melody notes, but alternates strums with it. So it sounds like this. Now that's like almost like a music box kind of push this button. It's kind of non-musical when I demonstrate it that way, but that's a great way to put the building blocks together of your arrangement. So now let me try to play it a little bit more musically. Okay, so I might embellish a thing or two on here, maybe with the rhythm of the strumming hand, for instance, but I'm going to try to stick exactly to the arrangement that I just played, but play it a little bit more musically. 1, 2, 3, 4. I missed a note, but you get the idea. A little bit more musical. Now let me play that along with the rhythm track. And so notice what I'm doing in a melody strum. The basic components of this are that the melody is the lowest note, always. So I'm not playing any bass notes. The melody is always the lowest note, and I'm only strumming whatever remains of the chord on the higher strings, the treble strings, this direction. So you're not seeing any low bass notes in there. The melody is always in the bass. So when you get here, all you got to strum are two strings of the strum, but it still fills it in very nicely. Some arrangements, and depending on the key you're in, some arrangements, you know, are actually down on the lower strings where you hear that bass melody a little more clearly. This one is in G. It's arranged a little bit higher in the melody. I couldn't get it all the way down here, you know. You don't have the low D note. The lowest D note you have is here. But I could have done something lower. I'll approximate. Don't have the low D, so I can't do the whole thing down in that octave. But that's what I mean by bass melody. It means the melody is always the lowest sound. So if you see what's happening here, I've arranged it such that the melody is ringing true in the lower note, the lowest part of what we're playing, and the chords are being strummed on only the higher strings. So that's enough about melody strum. Let me just demonstrate this one more time along with the rhythm track, and you can hear how this simple approach makes a fine kickoff for the song on its own. One, two, ready, go. Okay, beautiful, love it. So the style of melody strum is based on several players from early country music before we had what we know today as bluegrass music. Mainly Mother Maybelle Carter. She was the one who kind of laid it down with that style with the original Carter family. So get ready for some questions. Send in your questions at any time. I will pop in real time here at the end to answer those questions. So far, you're picking up bits and pieces of what a bluegrass kickoff is. We did the basic melody on its own, and now we did this melody strum. We just kind of brushed over it. And now let's get to my actual arrangement. So in my definition, like I said, there's no rules here. There's no real regulation for it. To understand how a bluegrass song is kicked off, it's best to just listen to a lot of bluegrass music. If you listen to Flatt and Scruggs, Lester Flatt, Earl Scruggs, and the Foggy Mountain Boys, you're going to hear a lot of banjo kickoffs because Earl Scruggs was the banjo player, and he was a master of that. You'll also hear some fiddle kickoffs. Paul Warren, the fiddle player, he kicked off a lot of the songs too. You don't hear too many mandolin kickoffs in Flatt and Scruggs music. You'll hear a few. And in Bill Monroe and the Bluegrass Boys, you're going to hear a lot of mandolin kickoffs. Bill was the mandolin player. You'll also hear a lot of fiddle kickoffs because he loved the fiddle, and you'll hear some banjo kickoffs as well. But when you listen to these recordings, take note of what's happening. You're going to hear in the banjo kickoffs, you're going to hear a version of the melody worked into a banjo picking pattern, or a roll as they're called. In guitar kickoffs, we can sort of approximate that with what we call cross-picking. There's a bit of cross-picking in this kickoff that I'm going to show you. But that's this kind of thing. If I was doing a full-on cross-picking kickoff, it might go something like... So that's me applying a banjoistic cross-picking pattern to the melody. So you're going to hear that kind of thing a lot in the banjo kickoffs. That's what's happening when you hear that wild, exciting mess of banjo notes all together. You're hearing a melody with some picking patterns worked around it to accompany the melody. It's a self-accompanied way of playing. Kind of like our melody strum, or that little cross-picking thing I just sort of demonstrated there really quickly. On the fiddle kickoffs, you're going to hear mostly melody, because the fiddle has that long sustain, just like a voice. It can imitate the voice closer to any other instrument. So the fiddle doesn't have to do a lot besides playing the melody. But what the fiddle will do is usually some kind of pickup notes. That kind of thing. And pickup notes are a very important part of a good kickoff, in my book. I almost always use some kind of pickup notes. And then the fiddle will do a pickup note and then play some version of the melody and then trail off at the end with some cool licks while the vocal enters. And this would happen on a live bluegrass setting. They'd all be around one microphone, and the fiddle player might be playing this and kind of stepping back while they're trailing away their licks while the singer walks up to get ready to sing the song. They kind of shared that space of the microphone. And that's part of the sort of the natural dynamic of bluegrass music, which is really neat. So this kickoff to Worried Man Blues, this has elements of all of those considerations which I find great in bluegrass style, kind of works into a cool guitar arrangement. And we have some pickup notes, we have a bit of melody strum, we have a bit of cross-picking, and we have some single note licks. So let's go ahead and dive into this. Let's have a look at the arrangement on the screen here. And notice that we start with some pickup notes. So these notes at the top are pickup notes to the downbeat. So I'm going to count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Okay? So that's a pretty common thing to have it on those particular beats. And 2 or and 4 and. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, like so. Okay? So that is a little chromatic lick. We're in the key of G, and you should always know your G major scale, right? Right? Know your G major scale in open position. That's very important. Okay? And then you'll realize that these pickup notes are just 2 notes of the scale plus 1 little chromatic note. Okay, so you got the 3, 4, and then a chromatic note up to the 5 where the melody starts. Okay, so again, if you need more information about how major scales work and how the melody works in a major scale, check out my bluegrass flatpicking method here on JamPlay. It goes into much detail about that. So, so that's a little chromatic pickup note to the 5th note of the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This melody is, if you're using the scale degrees, goes like this: 5, 5, 6, 1, 3, 3, 2, 1. Okay, those are the scale degrees we're playing based on 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 5, 5, 6, 1, 1, 3, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so when we're analyzing these kickoffs and I'm referencing the melody. That's the language I'm going to use. So we're starting on the 3rd, going chromatic up to the 5. So there's that 5. It's the D string open, and then I've got a little 1-finger G chord ready to strum there in the space while that note is ringing. And then we've got just a slightly embellished version of the melody. Open D, upstroke on the 2nd fret, and then a downstroke there on the open G string. Now we do a quick little... So that's a quick little slide from the 2nd fret of the D string up to the 5th fret, and that makes a G note. That's a unison with your G. And then we've got that short little cross-picking pattern. So just to kind of give you the nickel tour of cross-picking, because again, I cover this in great detail in my other courses. This is the pattern. Okay, so I'm going to double check tuning real quick here because I can hear that's a little, yeah, the D is slightly sharp and you really hear it when you got that unison. Okay, that's a little better. This is an old guitar too. Old Martins just have that. You learn to love that about the intonation. It's never quite perfect. That's pretty good. Okay, so the pattern is down, down, up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up, down. Let's try that on the open D, G, and B strings. Just save the fretting hand for a moment, and go down on the D string, down on the B string, and then you catch a quick upstroke on the D, up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up, down. And then once you get into it, you can get the full thing going, which is down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. That's alternating strokes, cross-picking. The other way to do it is down, down, up. Down, down, up, down, down, up, down. Down, down, up, down, down, up, down. And I rarely play that style. It's easier for me to alternate, so that's what I like to do. Down, down, up, down, up, down. So that's what I've got notated here. So we go down, down, up, down, up, down. Okay? So those first two measures are... Okay? Moving on, we do this quick slide from the 2nd fret of the G string to the 4th fret. And then you hit that little down strum on just the B and high E strings. Okay, to get that full sound there of a melody strum, and then that quick slide back down. Okay, and then moving on, we're going to play some chromatic notes. Open D, chromatic leading tone to that next note of the melody, and that puts us on a C chord, okay, which is the 4 chord. And what am I going to do? A little bit of cross picking. Okay, so that's down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Let's just repeat that part of the measure. And down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Again, and down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. One more time. And down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Okay? So after that, we've got this same little slightly embellished version of the melody. which is also one of my favorite licks in bluegrass music. It's a lick, but it's also a very common, melody. So you got that, and then we have my other favorite lick in bluegrass music, this one. Whoa, cool. Now all of a sudden it doesn't sound like a major scale anymore. And that's because we're flatting the third. So there's your 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, flat 3. The third is flatted often when we're over the 4 chord. Why? Because if you put a 7th, if you play a C7 chord, there's that flat third of the key. So when you hear these two measures together, it really sounds like that C chord with a 7th on it. It's kind of like blues 101. You flat the third when you're over the 4 chord. And blues is a big part of the bluegrass sound, especially on the guitar. We like to blues things up a little bit. Okay, so that is basically the first half of the kickoff. So why don't we go ahead and try that with the rhythm track at slow tempo. Now you might not be totally ready for this. I hope you are. If you are, great, let's go for it. Don't be scared, it's gonna be fun. But remember, if this is a little bit beyond where you are in your studies, you can always just mark this time on the video and come right back to it once we have this on archive. Because I really want you to learn this kickoff. It's a really cool kickoff, and you will be able to use this at all your bluegrass jams. So here we go, just up to where we landed. It's just the first 4 measures with the pickup notes, along with the rhythm track at slow tempo. A 1 and a 2 and a 3. Just that much. The end of that 4th measure is pickup notes to the next measure. Okay, one more time. Same thing, slow tempo. A 1 and a 2 and a 3. Moving on from there, we've got this version of the pickup notes again. It just has a slightly different rhythm, so it's 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. Okay, so that's a down, down, up. And now we have a slightly embellished rhythm here. Or let's see, it's actually... That's what it is. Down, down, up, down, up, down, down. With a quick little strum just of those 2 notes, the open G and this 3rd fret that you're fretting. This is a very common shape for the key of G. So you land in that little shape to get a quick little strum, and then you shift back to open position. Same little embellishment of that lick that I've done every time. So let's check out that measure one more time. The pickup notes are 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay? So notice I'm just working that melody in with a little bit of cool embellishment around it. A little bit of down, up rhythm, chugga, and just one little melody strum bit. Otherwise, it's all pretty straight. Moving on, we're going to do this. Okay, now there's a really good bluegrass lick. If you don't know that one, learn it right now. we slide a quick slide with the second finger from the 3rd to the 4th fret of the G string. And then my first finger is ready to go. Notice that so much of what we do is based around these like chord shapes, right? So there you go, you see your G chord, and then just that string. And fingering doesn't matter so much here because you have so many open strings, you can shift back to open position at any time. But at some point, I'm going to shift back to either second position or open position. So my first finger will be here in the beginning, but at some point, I'm going to shift back so my first finger will be available on the 2nd fret. So there you go, Bluegrass 101. And then we wrap it up with, you've heard that 4 times already in this kickoff. And it's going to set us up now to our D chord, where we're going to do that same cross-picking pattern. Now on a D chord, down, down, up, down, up, down. And then we wrap it up with a that little figure with some hammer-ons and pull-offs, hammering on to the flat 3rd. Then up to the open B string, which is the major 3rd. Now pull off the same 2 notes. Flat 3rd down to the 2nd fret. Open G. 2nd fret of the D, open D. Landing on the open. And that's another kind of Bluegrass 101 kind of vocabulary for you. And that's it. That is the entire melody. Now what do? We do like the fiddles and we trail off. And this is our trail off lick. Okay, so we got 2 measures of trail off. The first one is this high lick. You already played that lick, and there it is again. And then we kind of complete it by working our way all the way down that low G note, and then we're gonna cap it off with a G run. This is my favorite G run. If you've taken any of these bluegrass courses with me before, you've probably played this one. You start on your low G note, open A, first finger both hammers the 1st fret and slides to the 2nd fret. So those don't have to be like note, picky clear. It can be kind of muddy. You hear that in the bluegrass sound quite a bit, that being a real kind of muddy slur. And once you're up on that high G note, the rest of this is just showing you how to get back to your boom strum rhythm. So the rhythm track is going to trail off on a 1 chord for a couple measures to help you get set up back on your boom strum with that rhythm guitar. And this is going to set you up for actually kicking off a song in a Bluegrass Jam setting. If you don't have your own Bluegrass Jam setting to practice this with, join me on Monday nights on my Facebook page and my YouTube channel, where I do an open jam session. And I will do lots of songs that are standards, like this one. This song pops up, pretty frequently on the set list. And I let you kick off the song, and then I'll sing it, and I'll back you up. It's like a real jam setting where we go back and forth on leads and rhythm parts. So join me on Monday nights. You can see all that information on my Facebook page or my Instagram. Facebook Tyler Guitar, Flatpick Tyler on Instagram. YouTube channel is just search for Tyler Grant, you'll see me. I'm not Tyler the Creator. He's a little more famous than I am. But I'm the most famous Tyler Grant, as far as I can tell, on YouTube so far. Anyhow, so now we got this whole thing. Let's try it all the way through with the slow rhythm track. Here we go, kicking off Worried Man Blues. One more thing about kickoffs is that I could play this without, I'm going to count you in here because we're playing together and the rhythm track, is counting us in already. But I don't have to count when I'm doing this figure. Watch. That those pickup notes count the song off for you. So oftentimes if you hear a fiddle or a banjo, you're going to hear exactly where the one is, and you don't need that count. So that's just another little tidbit about bluegrass kickoffs. Here we go. We're going to kick this off together. I'm going to count you in. Slow tempo, 50 beats per minute. A 1 and a 2 and a 3. That's where the vocal would enter after all that trail off and the G run. Okay? One more time, slow tempo. Here we go. A 1 and a 2 and a 3. Great. Now how about mid-tempo, 70 beats per minute? Here we go. A 1, 2, 3. Sing a worried song, etc. Okay, I missed a couple notes there, so I'm going to try that again. And I bet you want another opportunity as well. Here we go. Mid-tempo, 70 beats per minute. A 1 and a 2 and 3. That was better. All right, here we go. If you're ready, let's go ahead and try this at 90 beats per minute, which is a decent performance tempo for this song. I usually play it a little faster than that, but this is just fine, and let's give it a go. 90 beats per minute. 1, 2, 3. Sing a worried Anyway, you got some trail off on the track there. Being that we give it this extra little couple beats at the end, we can't like loop the form because it's never exactly the same amount of time at the end. You do your trail off licks and the singer can come in at any time. So that's another part of the beauty of bluegrass music and part of the live quality of it. So again, if you join me on my Monday night jams, we do a slow jam first, but slow tempos in the 70s. And then we do a mid-tempo jam of songs that are mid-tempo. And then we do a fast jam for more advanced players at the end. So join me on Monday night, and thank you for joining me here today at JamPlay. We're going to be back next week, same time. And with a different song, we're going to do East Virginia Blues next week, another great bluegrass standard. So now we'll open it up for questions. Hey everybody, sorry about the technical glitch there. A lot of things are different since the last time we did this live format last year, but we're figuring it out. Okay, we got a question here. Can you do the basic melody using the metronome as the and? Yeah, that's what I'm doing. The metronome is, well, okay. Let me find a metronome here for you. That's what I did the whole lesson. The metronome is the backbeat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. I'm on my phone here, which is my metronome app. So let me pull this up. Okay. Let me find a slow click here to demonstrate once again. Okay, so maybe you can hear that click. 1, 2, 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. It takes a worried man to sing a worried song. I'm a worried now, but I won't be worried long. So there it is. There's the metronome on the ands, which is exactly what I did the whole lesson. Okay, any more questions? When you're referencing the melody 5, 5, 5, etc., is each scale degree a bar? You're confusing two different musical elements. You're confusing rhythm with melody. A bar is a measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a bar. The 5, we're talking about the scale degree. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the 5. So those are two different things. I don't know how to answer that question. So rhythm is 1, 2. It's the count, and each measure is known as a bar because there's bars on either end, like bookends. So that's just kind of a slang musical terminology for measure. But yeah, when we're talking about the melody, scale degrees, that is what we're talking about. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the 5th note of the scale. Are chromatic notes common in kickoffs? How often do you use them to embellish a melody? Yeah, chromatic notes are very common, and there are, as we move through this series, we are going to cover every common use of those chromatic tones. This one, being that the melody is the 5th of the scale, 2, 3, 4, 5, the melody starts on the 5th. So if you just backtrack down the scale, what are your pickup notes? Well, 3, 4, 5 is one way to do it. But I wanted to add one extra beat, and I do this just instinctually because I've heard so much of this music, listened to so much of it, and absorbed so much of it, that I naturally fill in that extra note. Okay, so there's just one chromatic pitch there, and the reason it's there is to fill in that amount of timing. So 1 and a 2 and a 3 and 4 and 1. If the melody was on the root note, which some of these songs are going to be coming up in subsequent weeks here, you can do that walk up 5, 6, 7, 1 without any chromatic notes. So it all just depends for me on the timing. But chromatic notes are simply, it's good to think of chromatic notes as simply the half step in between scale degrees. So when that's necessary, we'll use it. When it's not necessary, it doesn't play into the quality of your kickoff in any kind of way. I just put it in this one because I felt like it was necessary to fill in that timing. 1 and a 2 and a 3. And it's just a very common way to connect the 3, the 4, the sharp 4. I'm not even going to give it that kind of credit as naming it. I'm just calling it the half step between the 4 and the 5. We use it a lot in kind of bluesy, that kind of stuff. But yeah, good question. Chromatic notes are common, but I'm trying to simplify this as best as possible so you don't have to think about the chromatic scale. You're just thinking about that one little half step in between your major scale degrees. There's lots of other ways I could have done the pickup notes here. One of the ways I do them often is, that's a little descending pickup notes. Again, using a chromatic tone. Or I could have gone, or there's so many ways to approach it. So I'm just kind of bringing you what the most common pickup notes are for these kind of things. Cool. Any more questions out there? So great to be back with you here on the live setting, and Tell your friends we'll be back here every Wednesday, same time. And also send in, you can hit me up on the JamPlay messaging at any time. And if you have any particular, troubles, questions, suggestions of the coming weeks, I'll be filming those and we'll be putting them up every Wednesday. And, I'll be chiming in here like we're doing at the end of the lesson for some questions. So don't be strangers, all right?